there was this media portrayal of a Black marriage crisis, suggesting that Black people were not getting married or staying married as much as other ethnicities, and that Black women with too many degrees are less desirable. All of this stuff that we were being told, all of these headlines, because there's data,
right?
But you got to break down that data and understand that Black people, like essentially that the divorce rate is over-indexed in lower income families and neighborhoods, and Black people are often those in lower income brackets, right? And so the divorce rate was high, but it wasn't because of melanin.
Codie Elaine Oliver is CEO and founder of Black Love Inc., a fast-growing media company comprised of Black Love app, Black Love Podcast Network, blacklove.com, Black Love social and digital platforms, and live and virtual events, including the annual Black Love Summit and Black Love Honors. She hosts 2 podcasts and is also a director and co-creator of the groundbreaking 4-time NAACP Image Awards-nominated docuseries Black Love, which premiered as the most viewed unscripted series and owns history and wrapped its 6th and final season this year. Oliver is also partner and co-chair at Confluential Films, a company she shares with her husband, Tommy Oliver. Codie is a 4th-generation Howard University grad, a graduate of the University of Southern California Peter Stark Producing Program, and in addition to being an entrepreneur, she's a mama to 3 boys, 6 and under. Codie, girl, how long have we been trying to get this together?
I don't even want to say. Like what, during the pandemic? Not like last year. It had to be the year before.
Yeah.
2020.
Talk about divine timing though.
Yeah, something like that.
It was. We kept missing each other.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad. I feel like now is such a sweet time and you got a lot going on.
So much. It's overwhelming. I mean, I'm going to say positive things, but like, you know, I'm going to keep it real too.
That's what I love about you. Just so y'all have a little context, I fell in love with this woman from her series, Black Love, with her and her husband, Tommy. And what I loved about it is that it really inspired me not to give up on love.
That's the hope, yes.
Because I really was like, you know what? I'm just going to be single with, was it Tracy that said, I might just have a wheel of lovers.
Oh, wait.
A wheel. And I was like, nah, I don't think I want a wheel. And it really kind of gave me the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because growing up, and I saw a lot of broken relationships and broken people.
Yep.
And it scared me. And watching so many couples through your movie, Black Love, it really helped let me know, yes, there will be problems, but all of them don't end in brokenness.
Well, and also that I think many of us see a lot of broken relationships or relationships that don't work, but we don't recognize the broken people until we're grown. Right? We're just like, why does this perfect auntie of mine like never find the one, right? Or uncle or whatever, not realizing that these are grown-ups that we are looking up to, but they may not be like healed, whole humans, which doesn't make them bad or anything wrong with them, but it's like, we don't recognize that until way later. Oh, they were battling with all of this baggage, or they, and so I think that context matters a lot because we idolize, the people in our lives as we're coming up, and we see relationships come and go, as teenagers or whatever. And then we see the grownups in our lives start to, relationships start to fizzle out. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't understand. Like, that's what it was for me. Yeah. Is my parents got divorced when I was, they separated when I was 11. I think they got divorced when I was 13. But for me, it was like, what? Like, I don't understand what just happened. And I began to understand. Yeah. But you don't get, a lot of times the grownups are hiding the imperfect from us, the grownups. Now we're the grownups.
Now we're the grownups.
But we're not hiding. And I think
we're not.
that's what's so good. And I think that's what you're promoting.
Yeah.
You and Tommy are promoting, like not hiding.
Yeah.
And the power in sharing our story.
Yeah,
and how sharing our story can help us all heal together. So can you give us a little background on why you all created it in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, my obsession with relationships and love definitely started with my parents, and just that feeling of like, I don't understand what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
That sort of plagued my relationships, or at least my confidence in my relationships. Like, do I trust myself to pick someone if my mom and my dad didn't work out? And so fast forward to being like single in my 20s, I had 2 degrees, one from Howard, one from USC. And there was this media portrayal of a Black marriage crisis, suggesting that Black people were not getting married or staying married as much as other ethnicities, and that Black women with too many degrees are less desirable and more likely to end up single. Black women, period, are less desirable. Like all of this stuff that we were being told, all of these headlines, because there's data.
Right.
But you got to break down that data and understand that Black people, like essentially that the divorce rate is over-indexed in lower income families and neighborhoods, and Black people are often those in lower income brackets, right? And so the divorce rate was high, but it wasn't because of melanin. You know what I mean? And so, but that's not what headlines said. We read a headline that says, you know, there's a Black marriage crisis, and we go, oh my God, well, I guess I'm just gonna be alone. And so for me, the short version is that at some point I decided that I wanted to create a place where Black love stories live. We can obsess over why this divorce rate is what it is, and we can obsess over why stuff doesn't work, but let's look at the examples of what's working. Let's examine what it looks like for two people to work together for a relationship. Let's examine times where they had challenges and got through them. Because back to the original point, that we don't always know what's going on in people's relationships, and we don't know what they got through to get where they are. So we're also idolizing the smiling faces and the 30-year vow renewal, but not the 15-year I moved out. You know, if that's what happened. And so to me, I was just obsessed with that transparency. Like, what's going on in these marriages that I need to know about, right? And so that's really the premise for Black Love, the docuseries. It is what does it take to make a marriage work? And we emphasized, we told the story through Black couples, or at least interracial couples where one person was Black, because we also wanted to show Black people being loved, because we were being told that we weren't lovable, that we weren't worthy. And so it's like, well, cool. I want to make sure that we do this Black marriage thing, but that we also are showing people that like that's not the only way as a Black person to be happy. So I'm going to still show interracial couples where Black people are being loved on. I mean, that's the emphasis. Obviously, everybody being loved on in said marriage, but we wanted to emphasize like, okay, Black people, this is cool too. So yeah, that's the premise.
I love that. And you also included the LGBTQ plus community and how that diversity and all the stories need to be heard. And I thought that was very brave and also very necessary, because love looks different for everybody. And have you had any pushback? And if so, how did you handle it?
From that specifically? Absolutely. But I mean, mostly when we started this show, I want to say it was sort of the beginning of not social media, but like Instagram, right? Like Facebook, we were all on that at that point. Instagram was a thing, but like that became an immediate part of our business, partially because we own the show. And so we licensed it to own. It was on the OWN network, but we knew that as far as marketing, as far as like owning our audience and engaging them, we had to have a presence everywhere. And so social media was the place where people would be like, ooh, like, how could you show that? You know, because people say stuff on social media that they wouldn't say to your face.
They say everything.
And so that was where the pushback came from. OWN honestly never said a word. They were never like, oh, you sure you want to show this, queer couple? Never. They were always very supportive and just kept it moving. And so I was really grateful for that, for sure. And, folks had stuff to say every once in a while, but I would say overwhelmingly, it was positive. I think people took what they saw as, anyone who had something negative to say, took what they saw as like the good with the bad. And I kind of utilized that to my advantage, because it's like, all right, if somebody doesn't support, the LGBTQ community, you're going to watch this episode with Viola Davis, you know what I mean, and her husband. You're going to watch this episode with such and such.
Right.
And you're going to get this lesbian couple out of DC that you've never heard of. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think and I hope that allowed people to see things, watch them talk in ways that they wouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? If it was the L word, they wouldn't have watched it.
Right.
So we put it in, I say we give people their medicine with their sugar. And I also think that talking about things from a loving space, I mean anything, I mean that very broadly, like talking about difficult topics from a space of love, in my opinion, makes it impossible not to lean in a little bit, because everybody knows what it feels like to be loved, or at least they know what they desire and the type of love they desire. So to have all kinds of couples talking about like what love looks like and what it feels like and what it feels like to fight for it, and you know, then I think it helps people to just lean in. Okay, I guess I understand that. And that was my hope.
I love that. And speaking of understanding, like from all these episodes, what do you feel like is kind of like the biggest takeaway for you as a producer?
I'll tell you honestly, what people say a lot is like marriage is work. And I think a lot of folks, once you start to examine that, is like, what does that mean? Right? And for me, I would say unequivocally, after interviewing probably 250 couples, that the work is the work you do on yourself.
Right.
A lot of people have opinions about like that work. Oh, marriage shouldn't be work. Love shouldn't be work. But when I boiled down what I was seeing and the conversations that we were having and the through line of therapy, or of even, you know, people who didn't go to therapy, but they were realizing that things that weren't working in their relationship were pushing up against who they are, who they thought they were, or their boundaries that actually needed a little finessing, right? Like, that's that work that you do on yourself. Why does this thing bother me that my partner does? What can I change about myself or evolve within myself to either like literally change or like to give more grace?
Right.
You know, and so there's work required. Otherwise you just don't change. You don't give grace. You don't budge, and it doesn't work.
Right. Wow. That's so deep right there, because I feel like most of us want to look at the other person. Yeah. But I love what you said about just doing the inner work. And if if both people are committed to doing their own personal work, it makes the work together much more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. And more effective.
Yeah.
You know, like honestly, it can't be one-sided.
Right.
You have to think, in relationships, you have to think about, what can I be doing differently? Even if you come up with nothing, I swear I tried this, and this, and I really need you to understand how hard I'm trying and to meet me in the middle. You know what I mean? But if you're not asking yourself that question, what can I do differently? How can I look at this differently? Am I considering the other person's point of view? If you're not asking yourself that question, then, you know, it's not going to be fruitful.
Yeah. And you're a mom. You're a producer, producing with your husband. You're a mom. How do you balance it all? Like doing so much.
I don't know. I don't. It's a weird, balance is a weird word that is kind of like the work, right? It's like, what does that mean? And I think it means different things to different people. And I think the thing I resonate with the most is essentially balance being whatever brings me peace. I don't even mean I have that all the time, but when I consider what balance looks like to me, because there isn't a 50-50, there isn't a 30-30-30, right? Or whatever that math would be, but there isn't like a 1/3 parenting, 1/3 spouse, 1/3 career, because you can't show up in that way every day. There are children in my face more than a third of the time sometimes, right? And there's a person in my company who needs my attention, or somebody who quits and I gotta hire somebody, like, and it takes my attention. There's, you know, and the same is true of my relationship with Tommy. And so for me, balance is showing up however I need to on any given day or week. And then also recognizing, it's been a heavy kids week.
Right.
I need to pour into something else. And then I just said 3 things that weren't me. None of those things were me, girl. And so balance is like keeping in touch with all those spaces and trying to figure out, am I at peace?
Right.
And how can I be if I'm not? And I'm not, girl. Child.
And that just rolls us right into the next question. When it's not peaceful and everything is chaotic, like how do you get your peace back?
It's not, there's no one answer or one size fits all, at least not for me.
Yeah.
I do not currently have any like regimens. I know things that like in my soul like are meaningful to me, like hot yoga. I love hot yoga.
Yeah.
When I do it, I feel very good.
Yeah.
It forces me to focus. It allows me to feel proud of myself for getting my body moving in that way. I ain't doing it right now. But I need to be, and I know that, right?
Yeah.
And so there is certainly not a one size fits all for me. But there's things that I know I can tap into sometimes. Sometimes it's just friends.
Yeah.
I would say something that has been really meaningful to me over the last 6 months after we had a house fire. And I bring that up because it kind of it started there with a few people who came to help us who had just met through us. And they because we were all there that day, like cleaning up and stuff. Again, my children are fine. Everybody's fine. More smoke damage than fire damage. But nevertheless, like the relationships that developed that day,
right,
with people that I knew but now knew each other,
right,
have been a critical like new girlfriend time that I've had over the last 6 months that I realized at Christmas. The fire was Memorial Day, so May. At Christmas time, I was like, man, these 3 women who, again, I was already friends with, but now, we're doing things together, like have really impacted my well-being over the last 6 months. And just that time, that forced time, where they're like, let's go do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go and I have a wonderful time and I have a wonderful release from whatever else is happening. And so, if I'm making that advice, and not just about me, it's like kind of leaning in to what feels good sometimes without sacrificing something important, but like just leaning in and letting yourself have a little joy. One of them's name is Joy, so that's pretty funny.
I love it.
But yeah, so I think that's been a saving grace for me lately, and it changes from year to year.
I love that. So I love the way that you just let it naturally happen, because you're right. As a wellness coach, I'm already like, okay, see if you can do this and this and that. But I love how you just found what worked for you. And for right now, it's friendship and sisterhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's beautiful. What do you feel that's giving you that's similar to self-care, but it's not necessarily a bubble bath?
Yeah, girl, because the bubble bath ain't it for me. I think it feeds me from a place of pure joy, right? Like purely, I'm having a good time, right? And that could happen with anybody. But I think the consistency of friends that I can do nothing with and have a good time, and so it just kind of feeds my positivity. It feeds my joy. And I think that my kids feel that, and my husband feels that, and frankly work too, my team. And so it absolutely just, I'm definitely a happy person, like at heart, even when I'm stressed, even when like things are bad, like I'm like, I don't know how we gonna make it from today to tomorrow, but I'm gonna just find a way to drink some wine and have a good time so that my mind can be taken off that. Like I just try to be positive, and I'll think about that later, and so they've definitely given me that gift of like helping me check out.
I love that. And as a mom, like, starting into that journey, because you have your husband, which I want to talk to next, the beginning of that. But being a mom, how did that affect your relationship?
Yeah. Oh, girl. Funny enough, we have a podcast called The Mama's Den.
I saw that.
And like motherhood is one of my favorite topics, and partially because I always wanted to be a mom, and partially because there's so much that you learn once you're like embarking on that journey. I mean embarking from like, okay, how do I want to give birth, and what should I be eating when I'm pregnant? Like things you just don't really talk about before then. But it's this new, it's like a curriculum. It's like a new study, right? And so, and I think that we could help each other by just talking about it more. And then the journey of like actual, parenthood, sisterhood is required. Like what do they say? It takes a village. And while we don't have those village infrastructures that once existed, we have to make them. And so how has it impacted my relationship? Definitely greatly. When Tommy and I had our first, we both wanted to be parents. So it was not a huge impact from the standpoint of like, we were fine to do whatever it took.
Yeah.
It wasn't even hard. It was like, stay up all night, fine, whatever. You know, like, don't go out because we have this job, whatever. You know, like, we just were rolling with it and just in bliss having him. It got challenging, I think, because we, and especially he, but we still have professional ambitions and like needs and places to be. And so it becomes challenging when he's got to like roll. Yeah. He's a writer. Sometimes he goes away and he writes for a couple of days. He's a director and a producer. So sometimes he goes away for days and weeks and months to do that. And so there was a lot of juggling parenthood, my own business, and his needs to be away.
Right.
And that was really challenging, especially because I always call it a default parent. One parent will very easily say, okay, well, I've got to go tonight and I've got to do this thing or this weekend or this week. And the other parent, because they know the other parent's got it.
Right.
Even if they got a full-time job like me. Right. But like, I was the default parent. Right. And that's not to say he doesn't take care of us and the kids, but like he knows he can say, I got to go do this thing and it's going to be fine. And so that is just heavy. It's a heavy burden at times, especially when not discussed or rather not acknowledged. So that was a big shift. And then we had twins, you know? So add that times 2 more immediately.
Wow. And how was that? Because that was that planned or?
The timing, yes.
Yes.
I was ready for a second baby.
Yeah.
Which the kids, the babies and Brooks are 2 years apart. That was exactly as I would have liked. But we did not know we were going to have twins, at all. And no shade to that. I always wanted twins.
Right.
I just thought it was a silly thing that would never happen. I don't have twins in my family. I was like, this is hilarious.
Wow. Manifestation.
For real. No, for real. And he decided after our first that he did not want 3 kids. Wow. So he was like, the only way we're having 3 kids is if you have twins.
Oh, so y'all just spoke that manifestation. For real.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. That's so incredible. And so how was having twins different from just having one child?
Sheesh. I would say the biggest adjustment, because like in every way it's different, right? There's 2 of them. They require a lot of attention. But 2 of the biggest adjustments that stand out to me is like we traveled everywhere with our oldest. Everywhere. I mean, kids are free on flights till 2. Yep. And you can wear them. Like it's easy. It's a purse. You know what I mean? Like
just a little heavy purse.
He went all over the world.
Wow.
And so when we had the twins, we didn't go into it knowing we were having twins. We were just thinking second baby. Okay, cool. We can throw that one on a backpack, right? And like Brooks can walk and we'll be fine. But we had 2 at once. And so it was much harder to travel, which sucked for us because we like to travel and we like to have our kids with us. So that was immediately harder. And like, I mean, I'd say disappointing to a certain extent because we just couldn't do all the things we wanted to do without more money and more planning. And like, it was just a lot, more stress. And then the second thing, this is like such a twins thing, is that my kids are also identical, the twins. And so there's times when, because they look the same from 0 to now, okay, they're 4, when I don't know who's who. I know their faces. Now, granted, they're identical. This is not like, listen, I can tell Tia and Tamara apart better than I can tell Langston and Aristotle, but because one of them has a mole. But I can look at them and tell them apart. Takes a second sometimes, but if it's the back of somebody's head or the side or it's nighttime. And so there's a little sadness for me around the fact that like, somebody can come in my room in the middle of the night and sleep with me, and I don't even know who it is till morning. And I just wish that I knew. Right. It's a thing. And when they were babies, sometimes I would feed one. Right. And forget who I fed.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
I know, it's like such a specific like twin thing. But like, you know, like, or even change a diaper where it's like you do it and you're doing something else. I'm mom of the year. I'm in the middle of, I'm multitasking. Yeah. Put that baby down, walk away to pee, come back. And it's like, who did I feed? And it's not because I don't know my baby. The other one looks the same. What? Wow. So like, you know, that's such a specific thing, but it bugs me.
That's hilarious. You would never think of anything like that.
Identical twin parent out there is like, I understand, Codie.
Yes, I love that. And that's why I love, again, the storytelling, because people don't feel alone.
Yeah.
You know, people think that story doesn't matter, but it does, because someone is out there saying, me too.
Yo,
I didn't notice which one it was.
And I do feel bad when I call them the wrong name. But, you know. That part, I call Brooks their names too. My mother calls me Lee, I mean Codie, and she calls my sister Codie, I mean Lee. So, you know, that's a parent thing.
Yeah. I feel like we've all went through that. I look nothing like my brothers, but it happens, you know? So I think that's beautiful. And so now talk about like your love, like you and Tommy, like kind of give me a background on that relationship, because you guys have been together doing this work together, having this family together. Like, give me a background on how that began.
So we met at the Toronto Film Festival in 2013, which is actually really funny considering. Now, granted, it wasn't Toronto, but we just came back from the Sundance Film Festival a week ago, not even. And so there's like a festival love thing that's happening in this moment. But we met at the Toronto Film Festival 2013 when he premiered the first film he wrote and directed and produced. He had produced a film that was at Sundance before that, but Toronto was a very big deal because it was semi-autobiographical. And so we met and clicked like day one, and literally started dating immediately. We, within a couple of weeks, were talking about Black love, because it was something that I had been thinking about for years, and I had rejected the idea of it being a documentary, mostly because I didn't think that I could do it.
Right.
But he's also a cinematographer, writer, director, producer, cinematographer. And so he was like, let's do it. Like, I'll shoot it. You direct it. Let's go. Yeah. And so we started talking about that right away. And so we met September. We were engaged by March.
Wow.
We started filming by September of the following year. So 1 year after we met. And the journey of interviewing couples and learning from them has been, you know, incredible and unique and good and bad, right? Like we'll watch the same two people talk, and I'm like, yes, I love that. That makes so much sense. Tommy, can we just do that? And he's like, no. You know, so like that's challenging. Then we fight in the car on the way home. But there was a lot of learning to be done. Yeah. And then there was working together. I think the experience of shooting the show was like independent of then running the Black Love brand, which we are a media company with live events and robust social channels. And those two things, like from the jump, we have editorial content on blacklove.com. And then in 2021, we launched the Black Love Plus streaming app and the podcast network. Wow. And so before 2021, though, we had to have a conversation around like, how are we running this company together? Like we should have clearer roles so that we're not butting heads, so that we're not contradicting each other, so that we don't feel like we're stepping on each other. And also he was building his production company, Confluential Films. And which also can now finance films. Right. We did a raise last year, finance anything, film, TV, everything. We did a raise last year for Confluential. And so growing these two companies that are different in a lot of ways. There's a lot of overlap, but very different in so many ways. And each of them kind of represents our personalities too. And so it's my friend said to me this morning, I forgot how we got here, but one of my friends was like, y'all run two separate companies and have 3 kids. Like, that is a lot. And he was just like observing. And I was like, yeah. Like sometimes when people say it back to me, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that sound like a lot. Yeah. It is. It is.
But it sounds like you love it. And I feel like it sounds like you both are doing what you're passionate about.
And that's why it's honestly, that's for me. I was going to say that's why it's so hard. Because it's very hard to figure out what to sacrifice at times, because we are working in our passion, right? We are raising children, which both of us always wanted to be parents, and we are learning so fast, we are required to learn so fast. Neither of us has run a company with 15 people. Each of us has 15-ish employees, right? You know, we've never done that before. And we're different, and so we're figuring out our leadership styles independently. there's places where we overlap and disagree sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of learning and growing and stretching is probably the better word, happening. So it's often uncomfortable. It's often heavy, and it's often very busy.
Yeah.
So we don't always have the time to like check in with each other and debrief and support each other in ways that we would like to. And I mean, and that probably all sounds like so dark and bleak, but it's like real. And so
yeah,
I think that's coming to a head in this moment even, because with success comes like more demand.
Right.
So it's like, man, we've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so this past Sundance Film Festival, Confluential Films had 4 films in the festival, which is pretty much unheard of.
Right.
And look, if we talking about like juggling, in order to do that, 2 of those movies were produced by Tommy in September at the same time in 2 different states. The same month that our oldest started first grade.
Wow. Wow.
Like, and frankly, to turn any movie around from September to the Sundance Film Festival in January is also quite unheard of.
Huge.
But Tommy is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And so all of that has just it's been like a lot. Right. And so people see the success and people see the excitement. And then there's like, whoo, child, I need a nap.
Right.
Or a 2-week vacation. But all of that said, we just left the festival, had these 4 films premiere, which was huge, and it was amazing and wonderful. We all had such a great time. And today, can I say today? Like,
yeah.
Okay. Today, one of them won the grand jury prize for the U.S. documentary competition, and it is a documentary about Nikki Giovanni.
Congratulations!
It is very cool, and the directors are a married couple, and it's just beautiful all around. To have that happen. And so we're just taking the highs, you know what I mean, trying to celebrate and be present in these moments, and then trying to learn as much as possible through lows. Right, when there's a challenge, it's kind of like, what can I do here? Right, what can I learn here? How can I show up differently? So I'm in the middle of all of that,
girl. I want to know your human design. Do you know your human design?
No.
Y'all sound like generators.
I was listening to
generators.
To Francesca Hoagie's podcast when she was talking about that.
Yeah.
And I didn't get far enough to learn mine.
But maybe manifesting generators, because y'all manifesting these twins. It's interesting. I want to know. I'm going to have to do it for you. I'm going to get your information once we finish the podcast, and I'll run it for you. So it's exciting. Yeah. So with all this success and all this growth and expansion of your family, of your career, and of yourself, as you said, that continual growth and evolution, what do you feel as a woman, you know, as a Black woman specifically, has been your saving grace to keeping your peace? Because like you said, it ain't easy, it's hard. So I feel like honesty, you know.
I was honest, I'll probably say 2 things. Like, one, I went right back to friendships. I'm very fortunate to have like 3 best friends from childhood. Childhood / like college, right? And look, depending on how many, but like maybe 5. Like, there's a core group that I've known me my whole life, essentially. And I'm very fortunate. And I'm also the kind of person who prioritizes friends in adulthood. I think that's harder for a lot of people. And I have not, I don't say I haven't had a hard time, but I lean into it as well as I've been very fortunate. I'm also somebody who will be pretty forward, you know what I mean? Like, with people that I like, and forge the friendship. I'm probably most proud of like someone I consider one of my best friends, who I met only 7 years ago. Like, and I just feel so lucky to have found an adult that I would say is one of my best friends. And so friendships, like, I need an outlet. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I love therapy, but it's not always possible to stay consistent, find the right person. So I have people that I trust and love and value. And so that is really helpful. And then the other part I would say is Black love. As challenging as it can be to lead the company and its activities and manage a team, it has given me more of that outlet. It allows me to say, here's what's plaguing me. It's probably plaguing someone else. Let's talk about it. Right. You know what I mean? Or like, it allows me to take, George Floyd's murder in 2020 and say, you know, my community is hurting. I'm hurting. I have these 3 little boys. I don't know what to do except find joy. Like find joy in who I am and celebrate Black people and Black boys. And I have a platform.
Yeah.
So I can do that for other people too. Like that's where I find peace. Is I'm like, I need this really badly. I think these people probably do too.
Yeah.
And not just I need it, but like I can pour into others myself. But thanks to this platform, I can use my tentacles to pour into others in a larger way. And it makes me proud. It makes me like it, you know, triple down on my commitment to Black love regularly because, you know, I will also clarify too that because of the docuseries and us launching as like, what does it take to make a marriage work? You know, I get that people like look at Black love, even the term, as romantic love, partnership, marriage. But to me, to my company, to my brand, Black love is Black people loving in all the ways: parenthood, sisterhood, brotherhood, self-love, love of community, showing up as lovable and loving when we have been told that we are not. And so we have a series right now called Men's Roundtable, which is each conversation is 5 men at a table, round table, talking about a topic, whether that's fatherhood, love. I think masculinity is one of them. Mental health is another one of them. And I'm so proud of it because we so seldom we as in the media are so seldom able to center Black men's voices, especially in a era society where Black men are like criminalized. And so to center these men's voices where they are talking about very, very organically, like their humanity, their love, their struggles, their debates, their relationships with their spouse or their children, and then where they're showing each other love and care and tenderness back and forth, like I'm just so proud of it and proud of those men. Like I'm grateful that we did it. I'm grateful I was there. I directed it. But I'm so proud of them and grateful to all of them.
That's so beautiful. What just kept ringing as you were talking is like, you found peace in your purpose. Yeah. You find peace in your purpose.
Stressful as it be sometimes.
Right. I think that's beautiful because it's just like, you know, pregnancy is like, it's hard, it's stressful, but then you get this beautiful product, this beautiful being. And with your job, it's hard, it's stressful, but you get this beautiful blessing to the world. So that's incredible. I know everyone's listening is like, this sounds like the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's talk about some of the challenges. Let's talk about some of the biggest challenges you've experienced where you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this.
Let me think on it. I mean, only because I'm trying to narrow it down. You know, so many, like shooting the show in a pandemic. You know, the juggle of choosing couples. Like I love interviewing couples and we had a great time. And for the most part, anybody we thought was interesting, we would sit down with and then had to leave some on the table. You know what I mean? Some people we thought were interesting, we never got to meet. But you know, with TV, you have to juggle like celebrity versus non-celebrity. And so I feel, great. And we did that beautifully, I feel, but it was still hard. To make sure that we had those names that would make people tune in. So that was a challenge, but that's probably light compared to like a lot of other things. But I would say that one of the challenges is further growing the brand beyond the docuseries. We have live events like the Black Love Summit, most recently Black Love Honors. So Black Love Summit will be going into its 6th year this year, 2023. Black Love Honors we launched last year. And we do a lot of other events like the U Retreat, which you were a part of. I think you were going to be a part of it. And then we had a pandemic and then we had it. And I think your part was virtual.
Right.
And then we tried to have it last year and couldn't, like the U Retreat, child. But it's a combination of working with brands, like the challenge of like working with brands and figuring out how to communicate about us and who we are and why people should work with us. When we know what we're capable of, we do it constantly. Right. We as in Black Love, like our brand, and the learning that we are not own. Like we spent so much time. One of the biggest hurdles was we own the show. Yay!
Right.
But anybody who saw Black love doing something thought that OWN was doing something. So we have to convince people like, hey, no, partner with us. We are trying to do something deep and authentic in our community. And y'all need to call us, not OWN sales department. And so that has been a big hurdle that we didn't really understand at first. And then once we did, it was like, oh gosh, we have to like really invest some time into this. Then the pandemic, which actually turned out to be kind of a blessing for us. But the blessing in that because we had already been spending years doing something from a space of love, we were able to create so much. I should not even say create. We were able to put that content out. For new people to see, because we also desperately needed to see Black people loving.
It was like the perfect timing when everyone, they said the divorce rates were up, you know, and I feel like they still are.
I don't know what they are right now, but but I also, my personal opinion is that most of the relationships that, and this isn't based on anyone I know, my understanding of why the divorce rate was up is that when you're sitting face to face with somebody in tight quarters, unable to go anywhere, you're faced with whatever you weren't paying attention to before. And that's a whole nother conversation about like divorce and the stigma of divorce. But the reality is, if you realize this isn't bringing me peace, we've been sweeping things under the rug or whatever happened when y'all were, you know what I mean, stuck in a house. I think that for a lot of those people, it was like, we can't not face this now. And I can't live like this. And that's a valuable thing to recognize. I mean, like, data aside from what the rate is, it's a powerful thing to recognize when something doesn't serve you. When you have given your all, when you have put in the work. And so we could have a whole nother conversation about that, because it irritates me, I think, the way that people judge other people's relationships and other people's choices.
And like, it's tough. I feel like what I learned from the show, one of the main things I learned is that, one, you can't judge. You never know. And what you said in the beginning, love does take work. And so you can choose not to do the work and choose, okay, it's too much, but that's a choice, like everything else in life. And it gave me, from a person who is not been married and has not been married, the understanding that no matter who you choose, no matter what pluses and minuses, it's still going to be work. You're never going to find someone where it's not going to be work. It's going to be work, and it's going to be hard. And I think sometimes, you know, speaking for single people, we think, well, we don't want to live a stressful life. Life is good, so we don't want to be stressed out. But at the same time, when you realize, yes, there's stress, but there's this blessing. There's peace in the chaos if you find the joy.
Even deciding, like, all right, when you're single, and especially like single and grown, right? Those of us, and you know, I'm almost 40, right? So my friends are pretty much the same age. And so it's like, to be single and settled. I mean, shoot, my mama's 70 and she's single, 71. So to be single and settled makes it sometimes hard, because you're like, well, I'm not trying to change my living room or my personality to be with somebody, right? But like, when you decide to prioritize companionship, you have to take what comes with that. And yes, you can find someone where it's so easy, but like, it's not always going to be easy. You're not always going to agree. And so you have to be willing to examine that and to put in whatever work that requires. And I think the other thing is, people's thresholds for work is different. People's thresholds for grace is different. Anyway, the judgment thing, it's a big one. And relationships are hard, and not just relationships are hard. Like, going back to what you said in the very beginning about broken people. Many of us are broken for one reason or another, and many of us have pushed it down and done nothing about it. And then we get with a spouse, and that spouse is like, oh shoot,
who this?
you don't even know you broke it. I didn't know, so how you gonna know? You know, so like, and then they have to deal with that. And sometimes people don't want to deal with that. So all of that is happening inside of a relationship. So it boils my potatoes when somebody is like judging what works and what doesn't from the outside. Because you have no idea. Anyway,
yeah, you never know. I love it. I love it. And I just love your authenticity. You're like, this is how it is. And then you never know.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot going on. And I really want to let the people know listening kind of what you have on the plate right now and what you have coming up.
Yeah. Okay.
So can you talk a little bit about, just briefly about each project and what it means to you?
Sure. Oof. Eesh. Okay. So, the Black Love Plus app is where we share our video series. Currently, Men's Roundtable is on the app. Just released it about a week ago. Lord, I have to think about what is coming next. What series is coming next? Couch Conversations is a series that's on the app that we have done 4 seasons of. So we're going into the 5th, which will premiere later this year in 2023. And that is a show where couples sit on a couch and talk with other couples about various topics, right? And a lot of times they don't know each other, so it's like talking through. It's sort of Black love, but in a group,
right?
And
I love
so
that.
instead of just hearing from these 2 people with their experiences, everybody is like challenging one another and like, hey, did you experience this? And so we've had Tabitha Brown and Chance Brown host that. We've had Kevin, Melissa Fredericks, and DeVal and Kadeen Ellis. And so we're, the next season we'll see who it's going to be. So we're excited about that. And I host 2 podcasts, I think, too. Mama's Den with the mamas, Melanie, Fiona, Ashley, Chia, and Felicia Latour. And we have 11 kids between us. And then a podcast,
magic number.
I know. And then a podcast called My New BFF, which, similar to you, I like to interview people that I admire and get beyond whatever they're known for. Right. So, I've had Nina Westbrook and I've had Temby Banks, who's a director. And Lord, I don't remember because I haven't done it in a while. A little extra hiatus going on. But we're going into recording that again soon. Lord. Oh, also one of our podcasts is nominated for an Image Award. I'm just saying. And the final season of Black Love is nominated for an Image Award.
Yes. Which podcast?
Man to Man, which is our men's wellness series.
Yes.
And then on the TV and film front, I'm developing both unscripted and scripted in the Black love space. Both, relationships, parenthood, all that good stuff. And raising these children. My oldest is in 1st grade and the twins are in a Montessori school, so they don't have like a grade. But, just kind of keeping an eye on them. Yeah. They come in my bed every single night. So I am very tired at all times. And what else am I doing? Wifing and parenting and trying to maintain the critical relationships in my life that bring me joy. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Oh, we have a movie coming out this summer called The Perfect Find, which we shot with, it's based on a book. It's a romance based on a book about an older woman and a younger man with Gabrielle Union and Keith Powers. And then you'll see these 4 Sundance movies pop up. They have to, get distribution. All that's happening now. But those movies will pop up. Look out for the Nikki Giovanni doc.
Yes, I cannot wait.
It's really beautiful.
Nikki Giovanni, what? Oh my gosh, I can't wait,
girl. And that's all I can think of.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Oh, I mean, of course we'll do the Black Love Summit again and honors and all that stuff and a couple of other things that we're brainstorming, just trying to make sure that we're keeping the conversation and the experience of Black love going in all the ways that we can.
I love that. I am, as you know, inspired by you, just very excited that we have the conversation. We have people like yourself and Tommy that have dedicated your lives really to keeping this conversation going because it's much needed. It's so important. And like I said, it gave me hope. And I'm one of those people where if I didn't have the series, I don't know. I might not be in the relationship that I'm in now.
I love that.
I might be doing something else, And so thank you. Thank you for having the conversation, keeping the conversations, sharing these stories because it's so important. I just could not wait to tell you that face to face.
Thank you.
And I guess the last thing I want to kind of dive into is this personally, like what's your personal motto for other women out there?
I don't know if I have a personal motto, but I do have something that has been on my mind the last maybe 9 months now. A quote that I heard last year, actually, and another one I heard recently. So you can have it all, but you can't do it all. And that's really like stuck with me because many of us are just holding on to everything. I have to make all the kids' lunches, and I have to, do all the drop-offs, and I have to do all the things at work and show up this way and and I got to make sure that, my house is clean from a man or whatever. Like you can do all of those things. You can also delegate a lot of those things. Like, and even that is not easy. Like there's probably nothing in this life that's easy. But recognizing that I can have it all, whatever that means to you, but I can't do it all. Some things like I gotta let go of. Yeah. And I can change that too. The freedom in like, you know what, now I do want to do that. Yeah. So that I would say is my current motto. And then something else stands out to me, which is a quote we actually recently talked about on the Mama's Den, which is faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you can't see. You choose.
Yes, I love that.
And that has been on my mind heavily as well. Because and when you think about it that way, like it is a choice that you're making. Yeah. So, and that actually is as I'm saying it out loud, it makes me think about something that my mother and I have talked about, like what I feel like is my whole life. And maybe we haven't talked about it as much as like we both like live by it, but like love and fear cannot exist in the same place. Yes. So I like sort of grew up thinking about things in that way. Like, okay, am I showing love or am I showing fear? So
I love that. That actually helps me calibrate everything in my life. It's like, are you leaning into love or are you leaning into fear? And when it came to relationship, I was leaning into fear for many, many, many years. Like, what happens when you lean into love, lean into possibility, lean into compassion, lean into healing? So that you can experience a fuller expression of love of yourself and with another. And that I feel like is the beauty of surrendering to relationships, surrendering to companionship, surrendering to sisterhood. It's like realizing that yes, things happen, but are you living in fear or are you living in love? So I absolutely love that. I feel like I learned that in Course in Miracles.
I feel like I read that in like a Oprah or Ayanla book in high school.
Right? Those women. Two of my favorites. And yes, well, thank you so much. I know you are about to celebrate, about to party, about to just all the success and everything that you've done to make this world a better place.
Thank you.
So you deserve it. And I just want to give you your flowers and tell you thank you in person and live so everyone can hear. And everyone tune into all the shows.
Yes, please.
And support all the places.
Get the app. The app is free, child. The Black Love Plus app is free. It's on your Roku. It's on your phone. Whatever.
Period. So you have no excuse.
None.
We have to all download it tonight.
Yes.
Tonight. Just download it. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to leave with the people?
Like lead with love. And that can be challenging too. Like I said, nothing's easy, especially if it doesn't come natural. So figure out how to like reframe stuff so that you're bringing love into wherever you go.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. It's been an honor to have you. And y'all, until next time, love yourself, love others, and love the world one day at a time, one breath at a time. Peace and love. We throw a little heart at the middle camera.
Oh, hey.
Make a little heart. And then, psh. Okay, we'll do it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Psh.